Welcome everyone to the CAIS YouTube channel. Today we are sitting down with the winners of the 2024 Paul Gray Award for the most thoughtful article. The title of the winning article is Design Knowledge for Virtual Learning Companions from a Value-Centered Perspective. It is published in the AIS e-library in volume 54 of CAIS. The authors of the paper, Ricarda, Bijan, and Tim, are sitting down with us today to discuss the paper, its findings, and its thought-provoking nature. So, Ricarda, if you would start us off, can you summarize the thesis and major findings of the article?
Yeah, so in my opinion, the major contribution is that we bridge design science research by bringing up fresh design knowledge on virtual learning companions. But at the same time, we do that from a value-centric perspective. So what does that mean? So what we were trying to do is to design a virtual learning companion, and that means that we wanted a chatbot that supports learners on the long term, but with a focus on a social relationship, like almost a bonding personality, so that it supports step by step along the semester. And this was only done because we integrated the future target group, so students within 3 cycles of design science research, and interviewed them, and they could also have their own prototypes and discuss with us what their needs were, especially for students that work part-time in parallel to their studies. And that way we found out that it's not any longer about transferring knowledge, because there are so many options out there on bots and other tools that help you gather new knowledge. Instead, they needed help in how to stay motivated, how to keep track, how to organize their time management when learning. And that way, we shifted this approach from assistance to companionship and really wanted this bonding nature from a value-centered perspective. So we didn't want to design a new product, but instead come up with 9 design principles and 33 design features to really help students grow and improve their time management and motivation.
Thank you, Ricarda. Bijan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think what is also an interesting point is that it's also really about skill building and supporting students in growing in their learning journey. And I think that's also a significant difference to existing tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, because in these tools, the students have to prompt themselves, and they have to like, ask a question and get a direct answer. But here it's they don't have got an accompaniment during this process. So our virtual learning companion approach really supports students in growing, in developing skills, and I think that's really interesting.
And Tim, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so for me, besides the aspects that Bijan and Ricarda also told, is that the paper develops a whole framework for designing the VLCs, and that's supporting, as Ricarda and Bijan also said, the motivation, time management, and collaborative learning, which are important streams in this research area.
Thank you. So, Ricarda, if you would, tell us what prompted this, I must say, relatively unique line of research. What kind of got you interested in pursuing this?
So originally we started this research all at the same chair of service information systems at TU Braunschweig, and their service design, but also companionship, has already a long tradition. That means that one of our co-authors, who's not here today, but Timo, he had already written his PhD thesis about the shift from assistance to companionship, but in a broader area. And then what really interested us was to kind of transfer it to the sector of education, because when we think back of our journey in learning, be it at school or at university, it's so important that you have a close bond to your teacher and that you trust and collaborate in class and all these social skills beyond it. So we didn't want to come up with another bot that just helps you learn factual knowledge, and instead like have this idea of companionship grow. And secondly, we had already come up with Manuel, that's another former PhD student of our chair, who had developed scientifically based a new framework called the value and interaction. And we kind of wanted to combine it, and we're like, well, if we are not about to design the next great technically savvy VLC product, but instead we want to look at learning as a service, like how do we need to frame these value layers, like the relationship layer, the adaptation layer, and also the service value. But you cannot do that just from your intuition. You need to do a lot of research, and that's how this project started, funded by the BMBF, which is a huge German funding pool for academic research, because they were convinced about our basic idea to come up with value-centered companionship, basically also because all the tools around AI and learning were growing.
Thank you, Ricardo. Bijan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think two aspects which I could add to that. So as Ricardo already mentioned, the project is also part of a larger project, which was called Study Buddy. And this was an interdisciplinary research project where we aim to develop a virtual study buddy that helps students stay motivated and manage their time better. And what was quite interesting is that there were also a lot of other research articles we have written in that time, and where we worked together in a team of, for example, psychologists or people with a more business-related perspective, with a more techie perspective. And I think bringing these perspectives together was really important for us to provide an overall framework what to consider in virtual companion design, because you have to manage so many different aspects, like some more related from a motivational perspective, like a more psychologist view, and some more like related to which features you integrate. And I think that that was something I can add here. And what was also quite interesting, that also before we have written that paper, we did a lot of studies where we surveyed students on their needs, on their issues, and all studies like hinted to that motivation was one of the core issues. So we asked different persons, we asked different types of classes and different types of institutions, and motivation was always the core issue. So that was also kind of how we decided to pick this as one of our target variables.
Thank you, Bijan. Tim, anything to add to that?
I think for all of us, the idea of involving students actively into the design process was a key motivator for this research project. And personality, as me as a working student at this institution, I faced challenges like time management and motivation in all days, which inspired to create solutions for others in similar situations.
Great, thank you. So let's get to the heart of the award. So what do you think is the most thought-provoking and interesting aspect of your paper? And another way to approach this, did anything really surprise you as you conducted the research and as you finished the publication of it? Did anything surprise you? What do you think is the most interesting aspect of your paper? Ricardo, if you would start us off, please.
I think for me, it's the idea that coming up with design knowledge is more than giving design patterns or guiding patterns, because it always needs to include examples and reasoning rooted in values and what value a prototype really brings for the end user, in our case, the students. Because this is not part of the paper, but the following one, we found out that although we could prove that students were getting better final exam grades after using our prototype. It was so hard in the beginning to get them like motivated to initially and then also on the long term using it, because it also needs a lot of effort to use it and interact with it every week or every couple of days. And for me, the most thought-provoking is, first, the collaboration with AI instead of just seeing it as a tool. And secondly, this value-centric approach that put the end user first, because only if there is a value in interaction, the design will have a future and really will leverage its potential.
Thank you, Ricardo. Bijan, anything to add to that?
Yes, for me, the virtual companion approach was kind of the most thought-provoking idea, because it mainly differentiates to previous tools, to previous chatbots tools, which were mostly there for assisting tasks, and the idea of having a collaborative partner like a real friend was kind of thought-provoking, because there were also different perceptions by the students what a friend or what a companion means. So they had like very different ideas for the feature level, but also on how to build a relationship. So it was also interesting for us to tackle these different needs of students in designing a virtual companion.
Great, thank you, Bijan. Tim, anything to add to that?
I totally agree to Ricarda and Bijan. I think the most interesting aspect is the focus on social bonding and value-centered design, and treating, as Bijan also told, the VLC as companions for students.
Great, thank you. So now looking a little bit to the future, have your thoughts on virtual learning companions changed since your paper is published? Ricarda, if you would.
Yeah, I totally think so, because there is a growing realization that co-design with learners is so important, and also an increasing awareness for the need of transparency and explainability of AI is really crucial. And at the same way, there is this huge progress in LLMs and what they are technologically capable of. And that way we can now focus less on the technology, because it's already out there, and step-by-step research is, like we did already before, more focusing on emotional intelligence, on effective computing, on relational dynamics, and it's really getting more to that point where we collaborate together with LLMs and companions instead of just using them as tools to be efficient, because learning is much more than being efficient. There are so many future skills linked to it, like being collaborative and creative and critical thinking, and all these very important future skills. And I see a shift there, that we have now the technical fundament to more focus on that and benefit from it.
Thank you, Ricarda. Bijan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think the main ideas of the article remain the same, but there are some aspects that I like to mention. So first of all, since generative AI is growing really fast, we really need to think about how we can handle that as educational institutions, but also as a society, because I think what is important is that we need to support students in using these tools, and not only focusing on having a tool that provides certain answers, because from now on, I'm really thinking about, we have to think also about negative sides, like over relying on AI, and how we can design these tools to keep students with their abilities to develop skills on their own. And I think another interesting aspect which we came up in our research recently was that the perception of a virtual companion can also vary depending on the context and target group. So for instance, we did some experiments with students from Chinese culture, and they had like totally different opinions about a virtual companion. Like they have the image of a more of a person with a more of a companion with more power distance. And we also did some experiments with a serious game, which was a board game where we integrated a virtual companion. And there it was also like that students told us, no, I want more like a tutor. So we like the relationship part, but we want more like a tutor in complex scenarios. So this is also some aspects which changed our how we think about virtual companions in different contextual situations.
Thank you, Bijan. Tim, anything to add to that?
I just want to underline the part that Bijan said about the cultural and contextual needs, because I think there is an importance to adapt these VLCs to different cultural aspects and needs. And we see some research growing in every culture, and I believe the VLCs could play a stronger role in all of these cultures and contextual needs beyond the education also.
Thank you, Tim. So now looking at the larger research ecosystem, has there been any significant research on the topic of virtual learning companions since you published your paper? Any new examples or applications worth mentioning? Ricardo, if you would.
There are many practical prototypes out there. For example, International University came up with Cynthia, or Khan Academy has its own learning companion, and it just shows that there is a lot of relevance to major institutions using learning companions. And at the same time, there were new, especially conference tracks coming up, which were specifically about companionship, or at least like chatbots and naturally speaking other bots in education. So there's definitely a lot going on in research right now. Also with the many GPT tutors, you can customize yourselves and new prototypes coming up. And I think the social cues and the social companionship is researched a lot more than before. When we started, we were quiet alone like some years ago when we were doing that, but now more and more institutions are also doing research, or we are collaborating a lot as well. And as I mentioned before, Tim and I did a study where we could show in an evaluation study that the instantiation mentioned in our paper, the virtual learning companion Alex, supported freshman students in a semester-long field experiment, and it actually has boosted students' success in the final exam significantly. It lowered dropout rates before the exam, and it could also improve their short-time planning and time management and their motivation to learn. And that were really really great findings for us, that it's not just design knowledge, but it does have an impact on daily learning of our target group.
Thank you, Ricardo. Bijan, anything to add to that?
I don't have got much to add, but I also like to highlight the practice side. So I think we have got a plethora of new tools coming out. So for example, ChatGPT also released an education perspective, and I think Gemini has also released a new tool supporting universities, and that's quite interesting because we have got so much tools, and we also have to think about which tools have got which advantages, disadvantages, and discuss this on an overarching level, because the topic is evolving really, really fast. So it's, I think, important to discuss the development of AI in education continuously.
Thank you, Bijan. Tim, anything to add to that?
I think there is a huge growing interest in conversational AI at all, and gamification and education with tools like ChatGPT, showcasing some new possibilities. But however, some applications and some research still focus on functionality rather than fostering the social and the collaborative learning, which is, I think, special for this research. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. So now let's talk about your research and what you're doing now. So Ricarda, if you would start us off, are you researching anything related to virtual companions now? What are you researching on, related or unrelated? Please talk about your current projects.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So honestly, doing research currently is very tough for me as I have a full-time teaching position. However, I try to find the sweet spot and kind of bridge my teaching experience and my research by focusing on all digital artifacts that can enhance my classroom activities. So what does that mean? On the one hand, I'm still researching on virtual learning companions, and currently I'm conducting a one-year project called Lucia, where we are redesigning a new virtual learning companion that is still based on the 9 design principles and 33 design features from the CAIS paper. But it is technically more mature and seeks to integrate more distinguished exercises and tasks like more multimedia and case studies and drag and drop examples in a course environment where we teach it in a course with about 20 students, which is different to Alex, where we had like more than 300 students in a math lecture. And therefore I do research on how we need to adapt the design knowledge to these new learning environments, and also how it shifts students' perspective towards my role as a teacher, because I want to work hand in hand with Lucia and not be replaced by it. And my second research stream is about gamification in learning. So for example, with other researchers from Göttingen, I'm doing research on virtual escape rooms, where we're trying to reduce students' cognitive load and also increase their motivation in learning how to code by coming up with a virtual escape room where they have many gamified elements to get excited about this hard topic of learning how to code. And also, as Bijan mentioned before, we are still working on a serious game with students to teach concepts of business model ideation, and there a learning companion is wrapped into that game. But it's not any longer a standalone tool, but now we try to go a step further and kind of combine it as a module of other existing web applications. And that's very interesting, and a lot of research is needed to see how this affects like motivation, cognitive load, and finally learning outcomes, and also the bonding aspect.
Thank you, Ricarda. Bijan, your current research stream, your current projects, please tell us.
Yes, since I'm fascinated about technology-enhanced learning, I'm also exploring virtual companions in different domains. As Ricarda already mentioned, we do a lot of research on virtual companions in game-like environments, like in a digital board game, where a companion supports students in ideation and, for example, in creativity, like building a business model on their own and collaborating in a group. So that's also kind of an interesting perspective, investigating how a companion can also influence team dynamics. And what I'm also researching is how to use AI in the metaverse, like in a virtual world where students can collaborate, and where they have got like an animated avatar, which is helping them ideate on a business model. And kind of my second research stream is meta research on design science research, on different new methods on advancing design science research as a paradigm, like, for example, a method for meta-synthesizing results, for discussing design knowledge on an overarching level, but also on integrating the value-centered perspective, more central in DSR, like through introducing a vision cycle that helps researchers define overarching values of their research and helps them define the overall mission and vision that guides their research.
Thank you, Bijan. Tim, please tell us about your current projects. What are you working on?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Together with Ricarda, who's supervising my PhD, I'm currently researching in the integration of learning taxonomies into conversational AI applications. So my focus is developing systems that guide students through learning objective, like from remembering to understanding, applying, and ultimately creating, which represents the highest order of thinking. And this is my current research stream right now.
And maybe if I can add to that, I find this super interesting to see this journey, because as I mentioned in the beginning, it was like one major point of our CAIS research that we integrated students from early on as the future target group. And Tim was one of these students. He was originally a bachelor student, helping us to code the instantiations of our design knowledge. And that way he kind of got deeper and deeper and deeper into the research, and then further developed to a master student, and now finally to a PhD student, and is also contributing to this field. And this is also part of our approach. I think that it's not only senior scholars doing some research far apart from what the future target group thinks about it, but instead integrating them from early on, and that way have this cascade of growing into a researcher yourself.
Thank you, Ricarda, Bijan, and Tim, for sitting down with us today to discuss your Paul Gray Award-winning paper. Very interesting research projects. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for your contribution to CAIS.
Thank you so much for having us. We are still thrilled, that we can be here and that we won this prize.